If there's one thing we have learned through the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, you got to put some money in goaltending because the highest paid guys left are goaltenders. Amazing how the defensemen and the forwards just got left behind in all those upsets. So welcome to In Goal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard, along with the co-founders of In Goal Magazine, Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. And they were talking about all the top 10 players, the 14 of the top 17 paid players in the National Hockey League were all out by the start of the second round, except for like Andrei Vasilevsky and Carey Price and some of these guys. It just reaffirms you got to put some cash in there. And Montreal with a depth tandem, Vegas with the depth tandem, we're rising to the top again, Hutch. Like we are the cream of the crop.
This is the time of year you pay your goaltenders for. They make all the difference. And I don't care what happens in the regular season. And I don't care if somebody thinks maybe they can replace a top goaltender at a cheap number. For the most part, the guys who are carrying the load here are these top end goaltenders. I think it's fantastic to see. And it's a time of year that, we can steal a series like nobody else can't we? So I love playoff time, boys.
Woody, like look at the guys that are left. Boston, Tuukka Rask. Vegas has a pair, Jennings Trophy winners. You've got in the North Division a couple of Vezina Trophy winners squaring off against each other. Andrei Vasilevsky, like it's a great group of 8-9 guys in the second round.
And just so somebody plays counterpoint here, I'll take a look at a couple of teams that have gone the other way. Carolina with Alex Nedeljkovic, who, in goal radio bump, not that he didn't earn this before he was on a couple of weeks ago, but Rookie of the Year finalist for the Calder Trophy announced the day we record this. Colorado, Philip Grubauer is a pretty well-established goaltender, solid number one, but making not big money yet and heading into unrestricted free agency. And who knows if they even re-sign him, like depending on how far they go. So there are still a couple of teams that are sort of going with the model of let's build a great team as opposed to spending all our money in goal. And that's sort of the counterpoint. And the other counterpoint, and we kind of touched on this in an article we had at ingoalmag.com about Carey Price and how good he was in that first round, along with Marc-Andre Fleury, the best goalie in the first round, statistically, when you adjust for, shot quality. The reality is, as good as he's been these playoffs and last year's playoffs, the regular seasons have been such where, Montreal gets into the playoffs only as a 12 seed last year because of the expanded playoff format. And I think you could fairly argue if it wasn't for the North Division, they would have been in tough to make it in any of the other three divisions they'd normally be in this year, because it wasn't a great regular season for him. Adjusted numbers, out of 66 goalies to face 200 plus chances, according to Clearsight Analytics, he was number 60. So it's an interesting conundrum because he has been unreal in the postseason. And this is 2 years in a row where he's come off a long break. First, the pandemic pause where he didn't even see a shot down in Tri-City, skated, but didn't see any rubber. Comes out, posts a 947, knocks off Pittsburgh. This year, 3+ weeks out with a concussion, half a game in the American Hockey League. Boom, knocks out heavily favored Toronto. So the performances in the playoffs are incredible. And everyone's pointing to the $10.5 million cap hit. And this is why you pay a guy $10.5 million. But in fairness, they've got to figure out a way in Montreal to get more of that in the regular season, or there won't be a lot of playoffs for Price in the final 5 years of this deal.
So my counterpoint to your counterpoint is they actually put more money into the goaltending than they have in the past because of Jake Allen. And while the record wasn't sensational, he won way more games than they've ever got out of a backup in the past, and they make the playoffs.
Yeah, no, and that is a good point because they tried to sort of cheapen out on that position and overburden Carey for all those years. That's what made this one interesting. This was the first year where they didn't run him into the ground, and yet the performance slipped anyway. So the fact they've got Allen is the reason they're in the playoffs, first and foremost, especially when Carey went out late in the season with a concussion. Now the key is finding a balance where you can get Carey the rest that lets him play like this in the playoffs, but find a way to get more out of him in the regular season. Like, because if we're being honest, that it wasn't just that it was subpar by his standards, it was subpar by NHL standards in the regular season.
We'll get to Carey Price and what's happening in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs and that great matchup. But I posted a little piece on Instagram that I needed a new suitcase. I was playing the other day and my bag was ripped to shreds. And I got a great response from the Hockey Shop, the hockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, from a guy named, sorry, guys, this is really embarrassing, but I got to look up this name. Cam. It was from a guy named Cam over at the Hockey Shop. Cam, I don't know, but he said he knows somebody, a really good guy at the Hockey Shop. You guys familiar with this guy?
Somebody Woody does videos with. I can't remember his name though. I have to just check out the podcast, because on YouTube I think we do all the gear segments over there. So I think if you check it out, I don't know the guy's name, but
he said he was he's gonna help me out with a new suitcase for my gear.
That's the guy that Surrey's always
Siri.
Thank you.
Yeah, Siri is always mad at, right? Yes. So all this time I spend trying to blow Cam's head up even bigger so it won't fit through doors, and you guys just stuck the biggest pin right in there, and all the air is coming out of that balloon of his.
I hear he's the guy to talk to if you want to customize your gear, whether it's your newest CCM eFlex 5 or this week. Recently we looked at the Bauer Hyperlite. Can you talk to that Cam guy if you want to customize your bag, Darren? Can we get like In Goal magazine across the side of a bag or?
I'm not going to lie to you. I found it. I got a little sugar rush when I got the reply from Cam and said that he knew a guy. Like, when you get the odd like from somebody famous and somebody that you admire, like, oh, Cam follows me. It's really good. And it just goes to show you that the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, they're paying attention.
Of course they are. They're also paying attention to the latest trends in goaltending, the latest in equipment. And of course, you can not only get it from the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com, but you can get all the information that will help you choose the right gear for you and for your game, whether it's Cam or the rest of his staff. They play the position, they eat, live, sleep, breathe the position. They can answer your questions about the position and what equipment is going to help you play it better. Whether, like you said, it's the newest from Bauer, CCM, Warrior, Bryans, Vaughn. They've got it all there, and they're able to tell you how it's going to play, how it's going to fit, how it's going to feel, get you in the right sizes so that you can play your best in goal. It's why we shop at the Hockey Shop in person. Hockey Shop, source for sports in Surrey on the outskirts of Vancouver, suburbia, or online at thehockeyshop.com. And of course, Darren, custom bags aren't Cam's department, but I've seen Cam. I've actually caught him sleeping in one of the hockey bags one day when I was down there.
Didn't you zip him up in one?
I had to unzip him. He managed to zip himself in there, and he was just totally snoozing, and we woke him up and got him out. There is a segment that'll help you. I can't remember how long ago it was, but if you check out on YouTube, we've got a video up on hockey bags. But also, if you're looking for custom team gear, I don't know if a one-off is going to be enough, Darren, but they've got a complete department that does team sales, whether it's embroidery, whether it's jerseys, whether it's custom hoodies. Our in-goal hoodies have been done by the Hockey Shop staff on their team side, whether it's getting embroidery done on bags. They can take care of that for you, whether it's your beer league team, your minor hockey league association, you name it, they take care of it. And like everything at the Hockey Shop, they do a great job. So make sure you check them out, whether it's to bug Cam about gear or to find out how to get your logo on your gear. Check it out at thehockeyshop.com.
I am going with a carry bag for the first time in about 10 years. I'm going back to it. I've had enough of it. And I'm pretty proud of myself for that. So I can't wait to bring you guys the end result of Cam helping me out. And we'll get back to Cam for our gear segment with the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and Source for Sports Surrey. Sticks, the Bauer Hyperlite and the 3X stick coming up. And there's some really intriguing facts about those twigs that you'll be interested in, and some different strategies that they've taken. But back to the goaltending, and the Vezina Trophy nominees are out. And we mentioned all this star-studded second round collection of goaltenders. The three finalists from the regular the Vezina Trophy voting are all into the second round. And that's, I don't know how unusual it is, but it's interesting that they've carried that performance over a little bit.
Oh, I thought Woody was going to jump in here and start into his diatribe, but it's
what's
not a
funny
surprise.
Is I was looking at Woody.
I can't see anything.
Yeah.
What? It's
Hutch.
not a surprise. Is it?
No,
it shouldn't be a surprise because we know the general managers vote on the Vezina Trophy based on wins. And so we're going to see the guys who play with teams that win a lot in the top 3. Now, that said, when we broke it down at In Goal, when Paul Campbell, one of our fantastic writers over at In Goal, broke it down with the CSA numbers, he absolutely agreed that Vasilevsky and Fleury should be in those top 2 spots. I don't think any of us disagreed with that, did we? But I think maybe it's that 3rd place spot. And I've seen some fantastic debate over on Twitter this week. And with Philip Grubauer nailing down that 3rd spot. But that got Woody's hackles up a little bit. And Woody really believes in this data. And we'll let him go in a second here. But I just would like to say that if you haven't been over to In Goal recently, I really suggest you check it out because there's that great article, Who Really Deserves the Vezina, that Paul Campbell put together. And then that also gets into a breakdown on how ClearSight Analytics works. That's a whole article on that, a guide to the data of ClearSight Analytics. And then if you get into the article that Kevin was mentioning earlier, Myth Busting with Carey Price, he looks at some of the data there and does a great job of breaking down what these numbers are all about, what they mean. Can sort of spin your head for a little while until you sink your teeth into the numbers a little bit. And so there's 3 fantastic opportunities to learn a little bit more about the advanced stats. And now I think we'll let Woody, bust out of the gates here and let us know who should be 3rd. Who should be 3rd, Woody?
Yeah. Because I'm a Grubauer guy
especially
and I
now.
got to watch him firsthand. I and this is before the Stanley Cup playoffs. He put forward some incredible performances head to head against Marc-Andre Fleury during 7. They squared off in 7 of the games. And then Grubauer won the last game 2-1 to give Colorado the President's Trophy and home ice advantage in this now second round series. So, but I got to watch him firsthand, and there's bias there. I was really impressed. Now, Woody, give me your point.
And it's interesting because maybe we're punishing him for being on a good team. But the Colorado Avalanche, in addition to being an absolute wagon offensively, happen to be one of the best defensive teams in the National Hockey League this year in terms of the shot quality environment. I mean, overall, they don't give up as much high quality chances, and that makes it easier for a goaltender, and significantly so. Like, they are a top 3 defensive team in the National Hockey League. Some of the public metrics have them as the number 1 defensive team in the National Hockey League. I think Sports Logic had them number 1 in a lot of the key categories they measure. They weren't quite that high in a shot quality measurement by ClearSight Analytics, but they were in that top echelon. And so that makes his life easier. And maybe he's punished too much. I saw a really fascinating look at this from, I think it's Giants in the Crease on Twitter. And so I got to give him credit because he looked at it in a different respect. Now, using public data, and I think the public data is limited compared to the stuff we talk about at ClearSight because it, quite often, if you're only using location, that's where you really don't get as much sort of detail on what truly is a high quality shot. And I think the Avs to the eye test give up a lot that might in public data look high quality, but as the Vegas Golden Knights are discovering in the second round, it really isn't. There are other factors like traffic, pre-shot movement, lateral plays, broken plays, and things like that truly dictate quality, not shot location. But using that data, he found a level of consistency in Grubauer's ability to be above expected night to night. Maybe the margin weren't as big as they were for goalies like Hellebuck, who played behind worse teams, but on a nightly basis, he was always above expected. Not always, but more often than I think all but 2 other goaltenders. He was top 3 in that category. And that's fair. And consistency, as you know, as a goaltender or as a team playing behind a goaltender or in front of, that matters. Consistency matters. So I don't want to ignore that completely. But when I look at the overall results, and yeah, Hellebuck gets there because he's playing behind a bad team. But I look at goals saved and I look at delta save percentage or save percentage differential by ClearSight Analytics. And goals saved overall, Hellebuck deserves to be the number 3 guy. in terms of that percentage and save percentage differential, he's actually right there with Grubauer, and neither one of them, like Hellebuck's just ahead of them and just in the top 10. Grubauer's not in the top 10 in either category. And that's where I would pick a nit here, in that to be one of the best 3 goaltenders in the league, you should probably be at least in the top 10 when it comes to the most accurate measurements we have for doing what a goaltender's supposed to do: stopping pucks and preventing goals. And he's not in top 10 in either one of those. Andrei Vasilevsky last year was a finalist, and he wasn't in the top 30 in either one. He was 31st and 32nd in those categories because he had a bad start and Tampa was better defensively. This year, he's full value as a finalist. They aren't nearly as good defensively, and he's upper echelon, top of the league, second only to Fleury, and in some of these categories, Demko in the major category. So to me, it's Hellebuck should be the third guy just based on overall workload. You could argue, and Paul Campbell does, that it should be Thatcher Demko. The reality, though, is they're a non-playoff team, one of the bottom in the league, so it's hard for me to give them that vote. I would go with Hellebuck. So
I thought you were going to say Mike Smith. That's where I thought you were going to go.
Mike Smith had, again, better in both categories than Philip Grubauer. And to me, that's, and again, Edmonton, we talk about margin for error. Edmonton's a much better defensive team than most people give them credit for. So, there's a lot, I guess at the end of the day, there's a lot of different ways you could have gone with this in terms of who finished third. When I add them all up, I think Hellebuck has the strongest case. And frankly, Philip Grubauer wasn't even on our radar for consideration when Paul wrote the article. And to me, that's telling. And again, I think the thing that irks me, and maybe I'm too tired and too drugged up on allergy medication to really get into a full-out rant like Hutch was hoping, but what irks me is it's so...
Yeah, it's doing great.
Yeah, but I haven't ripped on the GMs yet. Like, it really pisses me off because it's pretty clear how they decided this. You go to NHL.com, you click on goalie stats, and then you sort by wins. 1, 2, 3. And I think the really sad part here is, boy, do I hope they prove me wrong. But all of these adjusted numbers, and not just ClearSight, but almost all of the models, have Marc-Andre Fleury as your Vezina Trophy winner. And sadly, I think because of the importance they place in wins or on wins, the GMs are going to choose Andrei Vasilevsky. Not that he's not fully deserving. He's the best goalie in the world, but he didn't have the best season.
There was a time that the award had a bit of a career thing to it, didn't it, Darren?
Yeah, and I think there might be a sentimental
hope so.
Tinge to this year's vote, because not just because of what Marc-Andre has done this year, but the events of last summer in the bubble, how high profile that was, then coming back and doing what he accomplished this year, all the attention he got from climbing up the all-time list. There just might be that little bit of pulling on your heartstring. Like it, how many people are absolutely blown away that it's his first time ever being a finalist?
Yeah, that shocked me.
Yeah,
that blew people away. This might be, and people, what are the chances he's going to repeat and go through another career year? I hope he does, but there, I think there just might be a little, like you said, Hutch, career achievement.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I will eat these words and I will congratulate the general managers. But again, if they're picking it for a career achievement, as much as I love the story, it's kind of like picking it for wins. How about you guys just figure out how to pick the best freaking goalie every year?
Didn't you sort of discount Thatcher Demko there, though, because he didn't have enough wins? Said they weren't a playoff team?
I discounted them because they weren't even... They were one of the worst teams in the entire National Hockey League. And I talked to a few guys about this in their voting, because some of the GMs turned to their goalie coaches and some of those goalie coaches turned to us for access to some of these stats because the teams don't all pay for them. And some of the pushback I got on his name actually made sense. Like he was brilliant down the stretch, but much like Vasilevsky at the start of last season, the start wasn't there. Now, I would argue, having seen it firsthand, that it was because the team was like, it was like Doug Waite's New York Islanders. Like the defense was merely a suggestion. And at the end of the day, when the season was over, he was still, when Vasilevsky had the slow start, he climbed to 32nd by the end of the year. Demko had climbed to 3rd in the league. So you could absolutely, and Paul Campbell makes that argument, Hutch. So maybe I'm being a hypocrite.
I would just say you've sort of brought up something here, and I don't disagree with your feelings about Grubauer and what you're referencing there, but the argument we saw on Twitter and it was Giants in the Crease, or the Twitter handles at Crease Giants. I really like the fact that he at least dug into the numbers and found something to talk about consistency. And I do think that is undervalued with teams, because we hear players talk all the time about how crucial it is to know what you have behind you and how it changes how they play the game if they're not sure what they're getting one night to the next. And with Philip Grubauer, you absolutely got that, and it was everything they needed to deliver the wins that they got this year. So kudos to him for at least looking at a model there. I really like when people look at things, from a bit of a different angle, and that's almost putting a number on the eye test in a sense. So I like that.
Just a point of clarification: Vancouver season is over.
Or are they playing?
Yes.
Didn't they play Calgary last night, or is that over?
I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page on that the regular season for Calgary and Vancouver is complete. The other one is and you guys are north of the border. I'm south. I think that there is a bit of opinion floating around that the Canadian division was so wide open that you couldn't possibly have a Vezina Trophy finalist out of the Canadian division. I mean, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Draisaitl and what Connor did. Like, there's just so much scoring up there this year that they hardly played defense, and the goals were through the roof. And how do you have a Vezina Trophy? I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that is necessarily accurate, but I can absolutely confirm that opinion was floated around.
And that's where it bugs me if they're not using numbers that would help you filter that. And that's probably why Demko and Hellebuck rise to the level they do, is because they face such a high quality of shot. And the reality is it's 2021 and we can measure those things. So stop using raw save percentage. Start looking, or don't use it as an end all be all, maybe as a baseline, but start looking at these numbers.
You should put on a seminar.
Well, and you know what? The other thing is, do what, why are we're blessed to have access, and Steve lets us share the access for articles like this to Clearside Analytics. You have all the public analytics. Those are all widely published, and people do a great job of putting that online. Why are we seeing it? Why are we looking at it? Why is Giants in the Crease doing such a great job on Twitter to find something else that digs in a layer deeper? And yet the guys who are doing the voting don't appear to be doing any more than looking at the wins list. And maybe that's not fair, because maybe they do more research and then they just default to wins. But we've got the info. It's
I think we're splitting hairs this year.
Award.
We're splitting hairs this year because Grubauer, I think, deserved to be. I think he deserved to be. This isn't like a dark horse coming way out of left field. This year, I give them credit. I got it pretty good. Mikey DiPietro, what can we say about last week's episode and the continuing sort of contribution of content?
Well, first of all, last week's episode kicked ass, and it wasn't because I was doing the interview. It's because Mikey DiPietro was on the other end of it, and we've had a lot of good feedback on it. And if you're just coming to this one, you're skipping one. As good as Anthony Stolarz is this week, Mikey's right up there. Make sure you check them both out, and make sure you check out ingoalmag.com, because we got Mikey twice for some drills, and where I've got video of him doing these drills in the corner on his own. Well, Demko was on the ice at one end and Holtby at the other. Mikey didn't have a net, but he did these two great little drills, and then he walked us through the video of them, and we shared them with our audience at InGoal Premium for our InGoal Premium members. And I've gotten a ton of feedback on this, guys, from goalies of all levels about just how good these little tips are. And they're the kind of insights you don't get, frankly, anywhere else. So make sure you check them out. If you enjoyed the interview, check out more from Mikey at ingoalmag.com on the premium membership site. Not often, that you get NHL goalies sort of walking you through these little drills that you can then take to the rink, whether you're in junior, beer league, or like 9-10 years old. Like, you can go and work on these drills and they will help you become a better goaltender. And you're hearing them from the voice and thoughts and keys and tips from a guy who's one step from the NHL, and believe me, he's going to be there soon.
I did the one this week. I wasn't very, very good at it, but it was fun to try it because I had the vision in my head this week, and it was great. It exactly what I did was watch the video. It stuck in my head, and when I had some ice time this week, I had a couple of minutes on one end, and I did it. It was clumsy and funky, but it was cool.
That's awesome. I think some people think that the content over at InGoal is just for, NHL goaltending coaches so that they can share some drills that they can work on when they've got 3-4 shooters at their disposal at end of the rink all to themselves. But here's an example that can be used by a beer leaguer like you, Darren, by a young goaltender, as Kevin said. And I think it's a wonderful example as well. Not one, there's a couple of them. How you can work on your game as an individual, because this is Mikey D sitting in the corner all on his own when he doesn't have a net. So if you're a 12-year-old goaltender or a 42-year-old goaltender out there, and if you don't have the net, what are you doing? Are you standing there just drinking Gatorade, watching the drills go down on the other end? Or are you going to use that time to make yourself better? And I think these little things, and we've got all sorts of great stuff up this week. There's content there for everybody to learn how to be a better goaltender. And I love just seeing why these guys become the best, because they're willing to put the work in on their own.
I did a bit of the Gatorade watching the drills at the other end too. Did just for full transparency.
I'd stand on the bench and I'd drink somebody else's Gatorade. Yeah. No, not right now. Not right now.
Not right. No, I'm not right. Hey, you were on the ice. How'd that go?
Had a whole lot of fun.
Yeah,
had a whole lot of fun.
I was so happy for you.
Yeah, it was really good to get back out there. I've dropped 25 pounds in the last few months here with a little bit of exercise, and it was much more successful than the time I went on 25 pounds ago. I actually got to get out there, got a couple shots on goal even, because we were only playing on one end of the rink.
Nice. Oh, good for you. Did you score on your son?
I came real close, but no, I didn't score. I scared the heck out of him. He didn't see me breaking down from the point there, but it was good fun.
Next time you won't use your backup stick.
There you go. That's the problem. Of course.
I wonder if what Woody's backup stick, because he hasn't been on the ice in over a year in his men's league. Just before we get to our gear segment over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, Woody, I'm a little worried that your backup stick might be dried out. I'm glad we're doing sticks this week.
Well, first of all, it's not a backup stick; it's a warm-up stick.
Oh, sorry, warm-up stick.
Let's get the Rip Woody correct.
Yeah, I'm the one with the backup stick, because when I pull myself from a game, I just change sticks because there's no backups in beer league.
And second of all, it can't dry out because it's composite, Darren, so it'll be just fine. And yes, thanks for reminding everybody that I haven't played hockey in 14 months, but boy, am I looking forward to it, because things are getting back up and running up here in BC, and our league actually starts up next week. We have opted out. Everybody really cares about my beer league here, but we have opted out because we're just going to wait till September to get back into it, till we've all got our second dose. But I am looking forward to it. I have gotten a note from my team. I believe it is 4 months to training camp. Cuts will come early, and I've been told that I should probably start stretching now.
Foam rolling.
Wow, that goes without saying, right?
It goes without saying. The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, is our gear segment. A reminder, Anthony Stolarz is coming up, and what a great story. I remember junior with Anthony, and then watching what he's developed into, and some splendid performances this year, and what a group of goaltenders they had with Anaheim under Dallas Aikens as the head coach there in that All-American tandem. So we've got Anthony coming up in just a little bit. I believe it's his first time on In Goal Radio, the podcast. So a chance to get to know Anthony a little bit. But the gear segment right now, we're talking sticks, the Hyperlite and the 3X Twigs from Bauer, as we join Cam over at the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. Woody.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're in goalie utopia with Cam Matwiv, surrounded by all the latest and greatest, and we really can say that, right now, that is a peak phrase for the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. New gear from CCM. We got new gear from True behind us. We got new gear coming in from Warrior. But for the past couple of weeks, we've been locking in on the new line, the Hyperlite line from Bauer. Bauer's vapor line, now called the Hyperlite, and we've been blown away by it, frankly. We had the Hyperlite Pro pads about a month ago when the customizer first launched. We brought you the StabilaFlex knee. We were just wowed by the second price point 3X line that also includes the StabilaFlex knee and the balance plate under the calf, like a lot of great features. Last week, we walked you through the chest protector, Skookum there too. I can't believe I just said Skookum. And today, the stick line. We're going to go with both price points in one day, the Hyperlite and the 3X, kind of your equivalent to the Hyperlite Pro pads, and then that 3X line, your sort of top end and your second line. Cam Matwiv, tell me what has changed, what has improved in the new line of Bauer sticks. Right away in the Hyperlite, I'm looking at a pentagrip.
Yes.
A little bit sort of, ooh, I like that feel. Right over top, nice.
So it even calls out exactly where it kind of wants you to hold it too as well. Like coming across that index finger, kind of wrapping around, getting that a bit more control as you're playing. It's up there now. So to me, what really stands out in this is the weight. When they call it Hyperlite, you better deliver.
Did drum roll? I can't play the drums. What's the weight?
25-inch stick coming in at 580 grams on our scale.
Wow.
Hyperlite.
Flex points, we've seen that be a topic of conversation, along some of the different brands in terms of, is it mid-flex? Is it?
I think as we talk about this and call out the flex point in particular, I think we stop for a second and go look at the shaft first. The reason being, so what Bauer's done as opposed to a lot of the other trends is just kind of leaving at what they would call like a stock length. So Bauer's chopped this shaft by quite a bit. You'll see on our B-roll footage we'll compare that to an ultrasonic just to see how much shorter it really is. What that does do, especially for grabbing your pucks in the boards, I'm not pulling my arm all the way up, way past to be able to go and grab and pull that puck off the boards. I'm now keeping it a little bit lower so that when I got to go get it set for the shot, I'm already in a great anatomical position to get a good pop with the stick as opposed to up here.
Seriously, like last week, he couldn't remember the difference between his forearm and his bicep, and now he's telling us about anatomical positions of shooting. But I like it. We've seen the shorter stick. I mean, obviously, we did the story years ago about how Carey cuts his down. We've seen guys like Freddie Anderson, a lot of guys, really good puck handlers, embrace that shorter shaft length. Now it's stock in the Hyperlite line.
So to really drive that home, besides me going to school for
That's more like it, Cam.
rounded toe. So still your regular P31 curve, which we've come accustomed to, especially with all Bauer sticks. That said, the rounded toe, a nice feature and a great call out again for that pulling that puck off the boards and that easy puck handling. So Carey Price again, we'll reference him. Having that rounded toe specifically cited, again, a little bit of that rounded toe was easier for him to scoop that puck off that boards, especially when it kind of got dug in there. Something that's now featured, now an option, coming stock on both the 3X price point and the Hyperlite price point. Also ability to order custom, and we have curves returning in terms of for options.
Do you like that pentagrip? We don't see it on the sort of raised edge underneath the knuckles. We don't see it on the 3X line. So what are some of the things that are the same? What are some of the things that are different? And I guess, starting with different, the biggest one is going to be price.
Correct. But before you leave, again, pentagrip, just a call out and more ergonomical way to hold your stick with the integration of the blocker. So rather than being flat there, having that little bit raised as you come across index finger makes it a little bit easier for that index finger to wrap all the way around. So thus pentagrip.
Well, see, this is why we come to the hockey shop. He can't actually play goal, but he knows how to teach and tell you different little tips that are going to make
It's amazing what you
better.
can learn from me.
It's amazing, all right. Tell me about this stick.
Just like me. So 3X. So what's different? What's changed? What makes the stick also a great option? First of all, weight-wise. We lose that Hyperlite name, but we're still really, really, really light. This coming in at a 25 is 700 grams coming in on our scale, which puts it up there with some of the other pro options that are out there still currently. Price point on the stick's fantastic. We're coming in at that 170 mark Canadian. which really aggressively targets the market in terms of for composite sticks, because I think this is a fantastic stick for the price already. It removes some of the taglines that you find on the Hyperlite. So again, that no pentagrip. Still the shorter shaft. You still get that rounded P31 toe, so that's a nice feature there. But it's just a great overall feeling composite stick. So if you're a little bit more price conscious, especially with what's been going on, or you need to pick up, 4 or 5 sticks at a time, I'd check out the 3X2 as well.
Still really light, still got really good feel. We see that tendency, and obviously you haven't had a chance to take it out and get a bunch of shots in it, but we have seen that tendency before where sometimes the heavier materials can almost be a little more durable as well, even though you're paying less for it.
Yeah, I shy away from saying that any stick's durable because I've seen them all break. So that said, I can't wait to be pleasantly surprised. Couple cool things about this too. Black colorway. It's a nice added call out because you don't see these all black sticks from Bauer. That said, overall feel great. Grip on the paddle or on the actual shaft and paddle grip point, meet point. Holy.
Yeah, I think we should wrap this up before we screw it up anymore. So for Cam, I'm Kevin. This is the hook for the end of the episode. Make sure you check out the Bauer Hyperlite stick and the 3X stick from the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com. Cam, at the risk of another hook across the neck, where can they get a hold of you if they have any questions about the customizer and how to customize their sticks, but then order from you?
604-589-8299.
And
1-800-567-7790.
He nailed it. He nailed it, folks.
Okay, playing the great segment. I love the idea that experimenting with a shorter handle, shaft, whatever terminology you want to use. But can you shoot better, more torque, or what area does the shorter handle give you the advantage when puck handling?
I actually think the shooting would be a little bit harder in terms of getting more leverage on your shot. But I know when we had one of the Eli Wilson with Carey Price days up in Kelowna one summer, some of the kids were asking questions of Carey, and Kevin hosts a fantastic sort of round table there with Carey and the kids. And one of the questions was about the length of his shaft. And as I recall, he was explaining that it's just a little bit easier as things get in tight behind the net and you're trying to deal with a puck that's in your feet as you're stopping the rims and so on. He just felt that he had a little bit more control over the puck with that short shaft, and in a different way than you would get if you sort of grip down with your blocker, although you could certainly sort of experiment with that if you wanted to. I think it puts an emphasis on some of those short handles as well, those short dishes into the corner and stuff that I think Carey has really taken to a new level in the last few years. So emphasis on better plays in your own end, just easier to handle the pucks in and around your feet, but you're probably not, as a youngster, lofting it up into the scoreboard for the Mike Smith to the far end of the ice to score your first goal. But it's a great thing to experiment with.
If you've ever had a chance to watch Carey sort of just puck handle before practice or whatever, and we've had this, whether it's at the NHL level with the Canadians hitting the ice when we're covering a practice or a game day skate, or at the sessions in Kelowna, like he just absolutely dangles in and around his feet, and you can sort of see how that pays off, like his ability to sort of control pucks really close to him and also make quick moves and sort of little drags and toe drags and pull moves in tight and in close with full control. You can sort of see why it pays off. And interestingly enough, when we first published that by Carey Price, like there are other goalies right up to the National Hockey League. That was a long time ago when we first published that, and sort of the first time we'd heard of it. There are a lot of goalies in the NHL that have since copied it, frankly, and talked about that sort of Carey Price discussion and moment as the reason they started doing so. So it's been kind of cool to, like the Lundqvist loop being the first ones to write about and seeing it evolve to a part of every manufacturer's skate now. We didn't invent it, but sort of seeing it and recognizing it and have a goalie talk about it for the first time definitely has created more guys using it. And now you got an entire stick line by Bauer that does the same.
I actually saw a kid at a camp right after that article was published who had made his own Lundqvist loop because they weren't available to the general public. And I said, Where'd you learn about that? And where'd you get that? He said, well, I made it. Well, where'd you learn about it? Well, I read it in Ingle. So that was pretty cool. And that kid went on to play NCAA. So, and then he was quite young at the time. It's fun to see these guys growing up with it. Shout out to Cam Gray.
Cam, you're a trendsetter. Thank you very much. The other part of going with a shorter handle is it really accentuates the need to be a great skater. Because when you're getting the puck behind that, you don't have that extra reach. Some guys need that extra reach to get there and stop the puck. And when you're a great skater, it all comes back to skating. Everything that we talk about seems to come back to skating somehow in some way.
And yet, you know what? You're so right. And it kind of explains a lot of the reasons I suck. So like, it's kind of enlightening and depressing all at the same time.
I got suckered in there. I thought there was a great, beautiful antidote coming, and it was that was beautiful. Love it. Just on the subject of you were listening to Cam there. You kind of faded off, didn't you?
Yeah, and not just because. Listen, I can fade off while Cam was talking because I did the interview, but you guys got me thinking. And frankly, credit to Giants in the Crease on Twitter for getting me thinking about consistency and the importance of consistency. And he had used a public number. I think it was Natural Stat Trick, the one that he had tracked. And so as we were listening to Cam, I started sorting some of the numbers at Clearsight Analytics because, let's take a look at these. Maybe we are just looking at the surface ones. We can dig so much deeper. And, one of the easy ways to me to track consistency is, the opposite way, looking at the opposite. Do you give up bad goals? Do you give up low percentage goals? And we've heard the numbers from Steve Valaket and the guys at Clearsight Analytics. If your goalie gives up a low percentage goal, you lose the game 87% of the time, unless the guy at the other end reciprocates and gives up a bad one of his own. And, frankly, you can look no further than Game 7 of Leafs against Montreal, right? Jack Campbell was really good in that series. Behind a really good defensive team, but he was good. With the chances he faced, he was good. One bad goal in Game 7, and that's all it takes, right? So I started to look it up. And you know what? I'll be darned. And maybe this is another argument for Philip Grubauer, and maybe I will change my mind here on who should be the guy.
Did you just say, I'll be darned?
I'll be darned. I did. Oh my God, I'm turning into my parents.
Okay, continue on.
You guys suck. By the way, so I looked it up. So I sorted for low percentage goals. So guess what? Guess who? Actually, and another case in point, check mark next to Marc-Andre Fleury for why he should win the award. He is 7th in the National Hockey League in terms of giving up low percentage goals, or not giving up, like doing a good job against them. Only gave up 6 on over 500 chances. Philip Grubauer was a little more, so 550 chances. He only gave up 7, ranked 18th or tied for 18th in the league. Connor Hellebuck, who I'd argued should have been a Vezina Trophy finalist just a minute ago. I might have to change my mind. I don't completely, because again, he's so much better against the other types of chances that it outweighs this on the whole. But again, like consistency, bad goals. He gave up 20 low percentage goals this year. Now over 700 chances, but overall he was net zero. Like he just was right where you would expect a goalie to be. And expected or meeting expectations is not how we decide Vezina trophies. He was 51st in the league. And this one surprised me. Andrei Vasilevsky, and again, if I was looking at tiebreakers with him and Fleury, I'd have to consider this. He gave up 18 on 645 chances, negative 0.1% in terms of save percentage differential. In other words, he was worse than expected, and he ranked 56th in the National Hockey League. So, again, credit to Giants in the Crease for forcing me to think about things a little bit differently. There's just another layer we can dig into in terms of how we look at consistency, good goals, bad goals, and things like that. And another check in the box for Philip Grubauer. So maybe change my mind a little bit. But again, just I think an example of how with a little more time, we can dig into this. And I think that given the importance of the award, I think it's fair to expect that NHL general managers do some of this work as well before they vote. And that's why it gets maddening when on the surface it looks like it's wins, wins, wins.
You don't want to overcomplicate it though, do you?
Yeah, but yes and no. And I hear that argument, and people are probably asleep listening to me talk about advanced numbers already. But the reality is, there is no way for one person to watch every moment of every game of all these goalies. And goaltending is so different. It does not exist in a vacuum. It is so different from team to team, the job you are asked to do based on how teams defend and the quality of shots they give up. You have to be able to weight that. Otherwise, you are comparing apples to oranges constantly. You have to be able to normalize the environment somewhat, or it's just not a fair comparison. Like, even if you're getting paid to watch the league, you can't have watched every game and every moment for Andre Vasilevsky, Marc-Andre Fleury, Philip Grubauer, Connor Hellebuck. That's where stats can help you weigh and measure those things. And maybe it's on us in the media to share more of them publicly and have this conversation at ingoalmag.com so that others can read it and digest it for themselves and make better educated decisions if they don't have access to it directly. So not so much shame on us, but maybe I think in the future we'll try and dig in a little deeper before we write these articles in terms of, let's look at some of the other ways of measuring these same statistics and some of the other filters and layers we can get into.
I think one of the great challenges of it all is that you're dealing with so many different models. I mean, people can look at a save percentage and more or less know what it is. And I know the data track there isn't always the same either. But everybody's got a different model for looking at the environment. And so we're not all always talking about the same thing. And that becomes a real challenge. And some are available for everybody to see. Some you have to come through us. I think it's great that we've moved beyond save percentages as some great metric because it drives me batty when people use save percentage. That's a team stat, if you ask me.
Goals against, you mean?
Both. Save percentages as well, because if you create a really easy environment for a goaltender, he's going to have a higher save percentage. I can't stand either, really. But so it's great that we've moved beyond it, and I love the dialogue around all of these things, and I love that tonight we had a bit of a dialogue that brought more to some of these nuances. If you can change Woody's mind, you think you've gone a long way, and I think over the next few years we're going to see this evolve more and more, and maybe some of the the tracking data that the NHL will have will make this a little bit clearer in the future. But love this as a topic, but lots to talk about, isn't there?
Well, goals against average and save percentage can't be used anymore. And now Woody's changing his mind. I don't know what to believe. Like, I'm just totally lost right now with this whole scenario.
Dogs and cats getting along. Yeah. It's
difference between pears and bananas. It's wicked. Our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina is Anthony Stolarz from the Anaheim Ducks and Team USA right now. And the beat goes on over at Sensorina VR.
Sure does. We're still in the middle of their great goaltending skills competition over on Sensorina. Your chance to get in there, go head to head on the same set of drills with goaltenders from all around the world that are using the Sensorina system. They're ranking them every week. It's a live ranking. I mean, you do your drill over in the living room in that nice safe space that's bigger than Woody's office there, and you can come back and onto your website and you can check out exactly where you rank amongst all these other goaltenders. And guys, like, it's not only a really cool opportunity to see how you rank, and there's some young goaltenders putting up some massive numbers over there. But there's a chance to win $1,000 as well. And those are real dollars you can use towards your training. And they're going to take all these scores, they're number crunching them, and then the top 16, I think it is, are going to face off in the final week of the competition. I love the innovation of the training tool. We just see more and more and more goaltenders using it. It's a time of year which is absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of us are lucky to be heading back towards the rinks shortly here if we're not already there. But it is the time of year that you're sharpening those basics, you're sharpening those skills so that you're ready for those tryout camps that are just around the corner. And I think Sensorina is a fantastic tool to be using to prepare yourself as a goaltender. Really, the whole world of off-ice training for goaltenders has shifted, and I'm really glad we get to be a part of it, and that Sense Arena is a part of everything we're doing here at In Goal.
Vacation, cottage, where it goes with you too. That's the best part. Even if you're not
Woody would drown though. He'd be using it on the dock, and the next thing we know, he's ass over tea kettle into the lake. Yeah.
It's not waterproof? Is that what you're telling me?
Probably not.
Think about the hotel bills. They're going to be like, oh my God, like, did a rock star stay here last night? No, just that dumbass in his Sense Arena punching stuff off.
Okay, just to be clear.
Chairs broken.
Dude, let's just be fair to our friends over at Sense Arena. There is a way to set the system up so that you know where you're safe. There's a safe zone it creates. It lets you know if you're getting close to it. Woody just ignores all these safety things. He doesn't read directions. And so he puts himself at risk. So, use it properly, guys.
I thought it was fairly easy to comprehend. In fact, it tells you like you need a bit more space, and instead.
Yeah. No, I'm fine.
Listen. There are two elements here. One is it's technology and Woody, and that's a problem. Two, we're 122 episodes in. I'm pretty sure the audience has figured out by now that I am not that bright.
Okay, I've done it too. I punched the desk and I punched a wall in my office. I got to be honest. I was doing the review of Sense Arena that we published over at In Goal. If you haven't heard already, go check it out. Great look at the whole, right from the top to the bottom of the system. And I didn't have time as I'm comparing one drill to the next, one little nuance in a menu to another, to run back into that nice safe room across the hall. So I threw the headset on at my desk and ignored all warnings. And so suddenly you make a save, forgetting that there is a desk in the middle of your ice rink.
It just goes to show you how realistic it is too.
It's immersive.
And the one thing I think, just to point out, I think we're into the final week of the contest in terms of getting the early entries. So this is the last chance for us to go head to head. So I expect you guys to post your results in the next 48 hours.
Matthew will. Look for Matthew H, and you'll know how well I did.
Such a cheater.
Totally.
You're not cheating, you're trying. I've heard Woody say that on here before.
Brutal.
You're not trying.
The feature interview this week, Anthony Stolarz, give us a bit of a heads up on what we're going to hear in this conversation.
Well, first off, apologies to Anthony for the inverse in-goal bump. Sustained an injury at the World Championships and hasn't been able to finish the tournament with Team USA. And that was, I know that he was excited about heading over there. We caught up with him before he headed over. First off, just thanks to the Anaheim Ducks, Alex Gilchrist and Steve for setting this interview up with Anthony, a goaltender that I'd heard a lot of good things about from coaches that had worked with him, especially Dusty Schwartz in a very short stint in Edmonton. You hear Anthony talk about that, just had a lot of really good things to say. Sudarshan Maharaj, who we had on the podcast, a lot of good things to say about Anthony. But I hadn't had a chance to meet him myself, Darren. Like, we hadn't really talked before. Hadn't really got a chance to introduce the in-goal stuff. So I think a credit to him on how open and honest and forthcoming he was with somebody who, was for the most part a total stranger to him. He wasn't familiar, with me or with our audience. So, and there was just a lot of great stuff in here that I really enjoyed. I felt like I learned as he shared some of these things, and I felt I learned a little bit about perseverance, because he's been through a lot in terms of some of the injuries he's had to overcome. And I think a lot of us, whether it's injuries or other things, can learn a lot from him about the attitude he's taken overcoming adversity these past couple of years to, this year, after, a lot of expectations early in his career, to really lock himself into a spot with the Anaheim Ducks moving forward with some really great performances down the stretch, especially after sitting out for the first half and basically just, much like we talked about Mikey DiPietro last year, being that third guy in the taxi squad and watching a lot of hockey, did a really great job when he finally got a chance to get in there.
Interesting. And you've got a better memory for this than I do. Buffalo Sabres played a few games late in the season, came up with a couple of big wins, and stepped in there in a difficult scenario, coming up from the Rochester Americans, also a former London Knight like Anthony Stolarz, and it's taken a couple of years for both of them to really get to that role where they want to do. And I don't know why the name's slipping my mind.
Michael Hauser.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. But similar backgrounds and both kind of reached new heights this year.
Yeah, and I think Hauser's they're different stories in terms of perseverance, but both great examples of perseverance. And Hauser just at times not opportunity and being stuck at lower levels. And in Anthony's case, a little bit of that. But I think for him, as you'll hear in this interview, like just an incredibly bad run with injuries. And so not only how he managed to manage those things mentally, but also he talks about some of the work he does with the Performance Sports Lab in New Jersey. And some of the work he's done off the ice, including brain training. You know, we talked about Sensorina. He's doing some of the brain training using other tools, and the importance of that in overcoming all these different things to get to this stage. Just some really great anecdotes and examples of, what it takes to move past those types of setbacks.
Did not get the Team USA experience he was looking forward to, but certainly knows all about Uncle Sam in the crease when it came to the Anaheim Ducks. It's Anthony Stolarz, the feature interview on In Goal Radio, the podcast brought to you by Sensorina VR.
Really happy to have on In Goal Radio Anthony Stolarz on his way to the World Championships with USA Hockey. Anthony, first of all, congratulations on this. At the end of a season that I imagine was trying at times, but finished very successfully. You've been a part of USA Hockey's program before at the World Junior Championships, but getting the invite to the World Championships 7 years later, like, could it almost mean more just because of everything you've been through in the meantime?
Absolutely. I mean, I know growing up, watching the World Juniors, it was always a goal of mine to be on that team. You obviously would see the games and on NHL Network, and to be able to represent your country is an absolute honor. But for me, on the road I've had to travel on these past couple of years to get the invite to represent the U.S. again here at the World Championships. As soon as they called me, I was pretty shocked, to be honest. But at the same time, I said yes immediately, and I was just grateful for the opportunity.
Now, do you keep tabs on, like, is there any sort of camaraderie amongst the American goaltenders? We've written some stories about the 51 and 30 program. Obviously, I get a daily view on Thatcher Demko covering the Canucks in my day job here. But like guys like Jake and Cal, there's a really nice crop coming here, and guys who are establishing themselves in the league. Do you guys follow each other at all? Is there any sort of informal American goalie union?
I think it's just a goalie union in general. I mean, I know as a hockey nerd, you kind of like to keep tabs on the NCAA and major junior and watch guys grow, because obviously you see them being these high picks, and you kind of just want to see kind of how they're doing. And I'm a big believer in kind of watching other goalies, just in terms of being able to see if I can take anything from their game and translate it into mine. I know I did that a lot during my time in Philly when I was injured, and I think it kind of helped grow my game a lot. And I think just kind of informally, you kind of just go out there and want to just keep tabs on the guys, mainly just to watch and see if there's anything that you can kind of carry over into your game.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about, you had an All-American trio in Anaheim this year with John Gibson and Ryan Miller, a guy I got to know here in Vancouver really well, and two very different styles, probably two very different approaches to the position. Is there anything you took away from watching those guys, maybe one from each, that you're like, hey, this might work or this did work in terms of the way they manage things?
I think with Millsy, definitely it was the way he read the game. It was world class, and just being able to watch him in practice and see some of the saves he'd be able to make. And obviously at 40 years old, he's lost a step since when he was younger, but man, some of the saves that he would still be able to pull out just because he was always in the right spot at the right time. And I was lucky enough to be able to pick his brain and kind of just get some advice on my game going forward. And he would chime in too and help me out. So we had a great relationship. And I think with Gibby, it was probably the athleticism and his hand-eye coordination. Just some of the saves that he would make coming across the crease, and you'd think that there was no shot that he would stop it, and he goes into a full split and throws the windmill up and makes a glove save, or does a 2-pad stack, and they are a little different in terms of style, like you said, but at the end of the day, you do whatever it takes to stop the puck.
I'm curious, those conversation with Millsy. I got two parts on this one. How much did you take from him from an equipment standpoint? Because I'm not sure there's anybody who's more meticulous about sort of not just keep taking care of it, but how it functions for his game. And, sometimes for young goalies, not everyone pays that level of attention to it. So I wonder if there was any lessons there. And the other one is, Sudsy told us a couple of weeks ago that there are very few goalies left that actually try and dictate the game, like old Marty Brodeur style. I know you grew up watching him where they show you something, then take it away. And Ryan's one of those guys. Did you guys ever talk about that? Were there ever any little things where, you think you could get to the point where you're maybe baiting a shooter at this point?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Millsy was shootouts. He would take probably, I couldn't even take 50 shootouts after practice. He takes shootouts after warmups, or at the end of warmups and during games. And, that's an area where I struggled a little bit with, but I was able to kind of, pick his brain a little bit, and he was able to help me out. And I think the biggest thing was just showing the shooter one thing and then taking it away at the last second. He was so patient on his feet. He would never bite on the first move. And, obviously he's had a lot of success, but going back to the equipment thing, I'm the complete opposite. I don't know the intricacies of ankle boots and all that. So I kind of just tell them to make me a pad. And, if I like it, I kind of just stay in it over the years, but, just watching him with his gloves and his pads, I think he still wears like the old V4s. So, we were a little different there. I kind of try not to get too involved with that and just let the manufacturers deal with it.
How many times did you see him change a blocker board himself?
He would go out. He was definitely always in the room experimenting or, tweaking something. So, that's something. The only other guy I've seen do that was probably Dustin Tokarski. He would always have to make sure his pads were a certain angle, and he was always, fluffing them up or trying to make them straight or bending them down. Him and Millsy are probably the two most involved guys I've seen with their equipment.
You got a chance to play this year, just sort of getting back to the start of the year, and you talked about the impact and learning from Ryan and John. I mean, that was kind of all you got an opportunity to do for the first 2 months this year. Work with Sudsy in practice and watch those two guys. How tough mentally were the first 2 months of this season? And I know you weren't alone, like Taxi Squad was a reality for guys, but how hard is that to go that long without playing games, Anthony?
It's definitely difficult, but fortunately enough for me, I kind of dealt with that a few years ago in Philly when Carter Hart, his rookie year in the American League, it was Alex Lyon and Hartsey, and I was kind of the odd man out looking in. So I think that kind of helped me because I was able to know what I needed. I kind of knew going in what this role entailed, and it was up to me to work on things on the ice, utilize that time with Sudsy, after practice, and any reps that I got in practice, just make sure I'm making the most of it. But, it's definitely not an easy situation to be in because at the end of the day, there's only one net. And, when there's two other guys in front of you, you kind of know it's kind of tough to get your opportunity.
Now, I read some stuff that you guys had a pretty good plan in terms of sort of isolating specifics you wanted to work on and then sort of working your way through them over the course of that period. But before we get into some of those, I wanted to ask you about how you managed the parts of those practices that really weren't about the goaltender. Because I think that's something that it's a topic we talk about a lot. Something where I used to think, I'd watch these practices. And I know some goalies would too, and be like, what are they doing? Like this has nothing to do with playing goal. It's ridiculous. These chances are absurd. And over the years, we've heard from other guys where they find ways to get something out of it. So how have you, and I think it applies to a lot of young goalies, might have the same question themselves when they're stuck in a practice that really has nothing to do with them and it's wide open looks and, shot after shot. How do you find a way to manage those both mentally, and also are there ways to find things you can work on within that framework?
Yeah, I mean, usually those drills would come after practice. The forwards and D would break off, and If you were caught on the forward side, you knew that it was pretty much rapid fire. They're going to do a drill where they dump it in the corner, pass out to the slot. And I think for me, going back to what Sudsy and I had planned, it kind of was just focusing on that one area, whether that be just hands. So one day I would kind of just sit on the goal line and work on my hand-eye coordination, make sure I was tracking the puck in the entire way. And then the next day was making sure I beat the pass on my feet every time. So I think by going in and having a game plan in terms of what I wanted to accomplish that certain day, I think that really helped me kind of continue to get better. And, I try one day to do it all. You try to beat the pass on your feet and, still be able to react to it and make those saves. And there's obviously going to be those odd days where, the guys are getting the best of you and you don't really have it. But I mean, in the end, you're not going to have 200 great practices. So I think for me, having that mentality where, okay, if there was a day that, I wasn't doing too hot, I try not to get too down on myself and just made sure the next day that I would just go out there and kind of just make sure I was dialed in.
Now, some of the different things that, obviously he's not going to share all of them, but some of the different things that it sounded like you guys sort of focused on in that period where you weren't playing, but had all this time to work. You mentioned hands. That seemed to be one of the things that Sudsy was focused on. The other one being taller in your hips. Can you explain to our audience what that means to you and how it helped you in your game?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a 6'6" goalie. So I when I go into a butterfly and you kind of sag your hips a little bit, you kind of you go down and you're kind of leaning forward a little bit. Your hips have a little break in them, and it kind of makes you smaller. And at this level, especially the NHL level, if you give those guys that extra inch or two, they're going to be able to go in there and pick the corner and they're going to be able to beat you. So with Sudsy, he kind of opened my eyes to just, okay, drop down and just keep everything up. Make sure everything is, your hips are tall, your butt is up, and you're able to react to the shot. And boy, did it do wonders for me this year. Where it hit me in the shoulders, or I was able to get my glove on them because I didn't have to, go down with because your momentum's going down, and then you got to bring your hands all the way up. And, these guys are making, pinpoint accurate shots. So, for him to be able to show me that, I think it kind of helps grow my game this year.
Any other things that you focused on? Like I said, I know the hands. Were there any other things that you were like, things in your game where certain drills that really helped you make a stride, or things you maybe hadn't even thought about before that were new to you this season or in the past 2 seasons?
One of the things that we worked on was angle maintenance. We both felt that was something that, I wasn't getting those game-like reps in practice. So to be able to work on that at the end of the practice, just have guys come down the wall and have the option to cut across the middle or take a quick shot. Just always making sure that your angle was on point, because like I said, at the end of the day, these guys are good players, they're good shooters. And, if you give them any room, that they're going to be able to, they're going to be able to score. So, we did a lot of work on my footwork and just kind of making sure that the center of my body was always in the middle of the puck. And, I think that helped a lot as well.
I want to go back a little bit, and because the one thing I did notice, and obviously it jumps out because you get the apple on an OT winner, but puck handling seems to be an area where there's a lot of confidence. Obviously from New Jersey, I got to assume, and so I've learned in this industry never to assume, but I got to assume there's some Marty influence there. Is that, how'd you get into the game? How'd you get introduced to it? It's usually siblings or equipment, and it sounds like for you it might have been siblings. And how much of an impact did Marty have watching him growing up?
Yeah, my older brother Todd was a goalie, and I kind of was his biggest fan growing up. Obviously, my family is a big sports family, and he got into hockey. So once I saw him play, I kind of fell in love with the game, and I kind of was his biggest fan, just following around the rinks. And when he was done playing, his equipment became my equipment. I think my first set of pads were actually older than me. So he was a big influence on me. He was my goalie coach growing up. He was the one who kind of took me to practice and kind of critiqued me, go out with me, work on things with me. And he's always been my biggest supporter, and someone I can always rely on, whether good or bad, just to kind of, ask him what his thoughts are, and he'll give me an honest opinion.
Does he still, when you say older, I'm guessing if there's a coaching element, we're not talking a couple of years. He's a fair bit older?
Yeah, he's 10 years older than me.
Okay, so nice. Now, do you guys still talk the position? Like, I don't know if he still plays or anything, but is there still that passion and you guys have those conversations, geek out on goaltending even to this day? Or
Oh, absolutely. If there's something in a game that he sees, he's not afraid to, speak his mind. And I think he just likes talking shop. He's a goalie, and, he still plays men's league, and he's actually the ones that helped me design my pads for world championships this year. So he's a little excited about that. But, like I said, we've always had a great relationship, and, hockey's definitely kept us close. And with me always being so far away, and, it's kind of helped us stay in touch here.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, you said he was your first goalie coach. As you start to get into this and get serious, you mentioned sort of watching other guys. Like, where did the path and the evolution start in terms of maybe another goalie coach? Where did things get technical for you? Or was it just him and watching guys on TV? Like, everybody's kind of got a different point where that level of professional coaching gets added. Where was it for you?
It probably was in London with Bill Dark, and my first year Philly with Jeff Reese. I never had a goalie coach other than my brother. It was just something that my parents couldn't afford. So, I just always would have to rely on my brother and my dad, my dad, he, was able to watch my brother and watch me, but didn't really know the ins and outs of the position like my brother did. So I would always rely on him a little more. But it really wasn't until I started going to junior and pro where, that's when I really got into the nitty gritty of being a goalie. And, I think once my first year pro, I probably took my biggest step. My first and second year pro, I took my biggest step just in terms of development, just that confidence to, just get comfortable with these new things that I've been introduced to. And, I think my second year was probably one of my better years pro. And I think, from there, I kind of learned a lot more about the game and was able to just run with it from there.
Well, learning from a good one in Jeff Reese in Philadelphia, for sure. What kind of things, I know I'm asking you to go back here a little bit, and the game evolves so fast, but I'm just curious, like, what kind of things were new to you at that level?
The reverse VH was one for sure. Just kind of getting that new lingo. I think I was a VH guy. And just being so big, I would always kind of get pucks lost in my feet. So they kind of introduced the VH, and just I think just having a goalie coach and having those skating lessons. I really wasn't a great skater until I turned pro. My edge work, and now it's something that I'm working on every day in practice. Just kind of going and just doing little C cuts and making sure that I'm sharp and dialed in and ready to go.
Now, obviously, you spent a few years in Philly, and as you said before, had some injury things that just like some freak stuff and all, like a lot that you've had to overcome to this point, Anthony. What'd you learn off the ice about yourself through that? Because there, some of the, especially I think 17, 18, was pretty much the entire season. The hip surgery, the knee. I know there was a scary skate cut in the OHL. Was there a point where like you just threw your hands up, like, really seriously again? Like, it just feels like a really string of bad luck there. And how did you manage to, like, do you come out of that stronger for having gone through it?
Absolutely. You definitely come out stronger, but there definitely was a point with the second knee surgery. I was just in my truck and had my knee just sitting on the door, just kind of leaning there, and I brought it in and I felt the pop and immediately knew what it was. So I obviously was scared, and, it's obviously a serious injury. And when, you reheard it in a minor car incident, and, 8 months after, you're kind of thinking, well, what's going to happen when I finally get back on the ice? So there was that little bit of doubt, but I had a great support system, and, I just love the game so much that, I was, no matter how many injuries I get, I'm going to continue to battle through them, and, continue to work. Cause like I said, I love this game. It's all I really ever known how to do. And, want to play as long as I can. And, if you were to tell me, after that second knee surgery that I'm in the position I am right now, about to go to Latvia to represent the U.S. I kind of call BS on that. You don't think it's possible, but it makes all those long days of rehab that I went through, and all those days of agony, it makes it worth it.
Well, on the mental side, is there anyone you've worked with over the years that did you need like to get through something like that? I know the catchphrase is "What doesn't kill you always makes you stronger," but it's usually pretty tough to see that in the moment, especially after you've gone through a few. Was there anybody that helped you on the sports psych side, or did you just kind of figure there were a lot of just sort of internal lessons that you figured out on your own?
I would just use the team sport psychologist to kind of just help me out if I ever had any questions. But, I kind of like to figure things out on my own. And, I just feel if I can do that, it's just going to make me stronger. And, it's definitely been tough. I've definitely had to talk to some people over the years, and they've helped me tremendously. I know in Lehigh, our sports, like we would go to his house, he'd cook us dinner. It was usually 3 or 4 of us. And, it was like an informal thing. It was great. And, we could open up to him, feel comfortable. And he was there for my first year back from surgery. And I would probably see him once, twice a month. So it was definitely something that I valued. And, just over the years, you kind of take things from each doctor that you worked with and kind of, utilize it in your own game and, help with your mental approach.
It sounds like it's kind of like goaltending, right? Tools in the toolbox. You take certain ones that stick with you forever and some don't work for you and you move on. And so speaking of that, I mean, it was such a short stint. You get traded out of Philadelphia in 2018-19 at the deadline, part of the Cam Talbot deal. And you weren't in Edmonton for long, but I know in talking to Dustin Schwartz, you made an impression there. Just curious what the experience was like with him. When we talk about new voices, like tools in the toolbox, is there anything that you took away as short as that time was from your time in Edmonton?
Yeah, I mean, I love Schwartz. He was extremely personable, and man, can he rip a puck? He'd always be in line, being one of the guys firing pucks at the goalies. But he kind of helped me with probably my foot speed there. I kind of was coming back from injury. I wasn't 100% just in terms of it was my first year back, and he helped me kind of gain that confidence in myself and my body, just to be able to prove to myself that, hey, you can play at this level. You are quick enough. And we did a lot of stuff for movement around the crease, and he really helped get my body adjusted again to being a goalie at the NHL level. And, like I said, I didn't play too many games, so we had a lot of time to work on certain stuff. And his thing was just crease movement. And, I don't think, it was definitely a instrumental part in my return, I guess, to, working with him, because he was able to kind of just give me that confidence that, okay, I can play at this level at this speed.
The other part of that is confidence in your body. And when you've gone through as many different things as you've gone through, it sounds like, I can hear it in your answers, especially the knee, like it's got to take a while to sort of build that trust back up that, it's not going to happen again, that you can go 100% out there and not worry. And I'm just curious where I've seen some references to their work, sports performance labs in New Jersey. How big a part were they of that step back to, really trusting yourself physically to be out there and able to go 100%?
Yeah, they've kind of been the catalyst over the past 2 years for me, for my summer training. It wasn't until I went to Edmonton that I really started to work out again. The Oilers strength staff really gave me that confidence to get back in the gym. Philadelphia had more of a conservative approach. But it wasn't until I got traded to the Oilers and they kind of opened my eyes that, okay, hey, listen, you can do these things. And, obviously becoming a free agent in that summer, I kind of had to find a spot to train, and I found the Sports Performance Lab, and they helped me immensely, just getting the strength back in my leg, doing things that I didn't think, 2 years ago I'd be able to do. And, the staff was great, and the technology that they have for, being in a youth hockey rink, it's insane. The amount of force plates and machinery, the things that they had to not just help with your physical performance, but also mental and as a goalie, hand-eye coordination. They had this screen, and they just have these different games that you can play that work on hand-eye coordination, and they toss some crowd noise and flashing lights and all this stuff into it that kind of helps simulate a game. And I'll find myself there for 3 or 4 hours every day, just kind of do my workout, and then you're just on the board kind of messing around. And I have a good group that I work out with, and we kind of make a little competition out of it. But Sports Performance Lab, they've been definitely one of the biggest supporters of me in terms of getting me back to where I am, and I owe them a lot of credit.
Okay, so big board and lights, and are we talking like vision training, brain training, or sounds like a little bit of everything?
Yeah, it's basically, I don't know the name. Yeah, I don't know the name of the board. I know they had those the flashing goggles, and they'd have it going, and then saw a circle would pop up on the screen, and you got to touch the circle, and then like a red X would, and and you're just going as fast as you can. There's one where there's like crowd noise, and it's like in a hockey rink, and you kind of got to find the puck within the crowd. What else they have? They have like brain training games, I think they call them, and you kind of have to remember where the order of the circles pop up, and you got to guess the area. So they'll pop up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they'll flash away, and then you have to tap the order of where they went, and then try to get the same exact spot, the exact location, and based on how close you are and how fast you do it, it'll give you a score. So the technology there is insane.
Yeah, no, when I saw that you took up juggling too, and you were using the strobe glasses, the ones that cut the vision in and out with that as well during the break, the pause.
Yeah, they had the strobe glasses, and we just kind of play catch, and like juggling was something I never really knew how to do, and I figured I'd take this quarantine, this layoff over the past year to kind of learn how to do that, and I think that's helped me too, just with my hand-eye coordination and just being able to track the puck.
How many balls are you up to? Are we on 3? We working up to 4? We pushing 5?
I'm on 3 comfortably now, but I think this summer I want to try to get to 4.
Nice. So it sounds, Anthony, like at age 27, after having gone through a lot early in your career in terms of injuries, it sounds like you're discovering a lot of new sort of avenues to get better, like little things off the ice, and the brain training and the eye-hand coordination. A lot of these things new to you in the past couple of summers, and it sounds like you've really embraced them. You feel like they make a real difference in your game.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is too, you kind of, as you get older, you kind of get to know your body and what you need. And when I was younger, I would just train as hard as I can, and I maybe burn myself out a little too much, where now I know what I need to stay in shape and what I need to, make myself successful on the ice. And just having these other, instruments to be able to work on my game, and it's not all about just being in the gym and lifting the most weights, but the mental aspect, the hand-eye coordination for a goal, and it's just playing your buddies in these brain training games. It's there's a lot more to it, and I think when you kind of you kind of add those things together, it's I think that's what's helping me in the end, is just a mixture of all those different tools.
Okay, I got one last one because I have to have a last question, or our host, Darren Millard, won't know what's happening. He likes to ridicule me for taking way too long on these interviews, and I'm sorry I've taken so long on this one. But you told me that you weren't a big sort of gear guy, and I get that. But I watched you handle the puck, and I saw an interview where you got wax on the tape. Like you may not be worried about what's in the blocker board, but you take care of your twigs pretty good from the sounds of it.
Yeah. I'm a big wax guy just because I know I play the puck so much. I don't want it to roll off, and I always feel that the wax gives me that little swagger aspect of it. Guys look at it. I like to think I get the sniper tape job too. Tape the toe and only go halfway up the stick. So my ultimate goal is to score a goal. If I ever get that opportunity, I know 100% I'm going to go for it. But I definitely I load up on the wax, and I usually redo it in between periods as well.
Nice. Okay. See, so everybody doesn't even if it's not the pads and the gear, everybody's got a little gear geek in them when they're playing goal. I love it. So yeah. Hey, listen.
look forward to seeing you in person next year with the Ducks. Been such a weird year this year. It's so odd to not have you guys come through town, but I look forward to getting back to that so I can introduce myself in person and get a chance to see that wax job on the stick. Maybe you can share some tips with how to do it properly with our young goaltenders when we see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, hey, Anthony, congratulations again on a great season amid tough circumstances, especially at the beginning. And just congratulations on the call to represent USA at the World Championships. And thank you so much for taking so much time today to sort of share your story and the story of your season with our audience.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing the interview. I really appreciate it.
I think the future is bright for Anthony. I think there's a real opportunity to do some really cool things in his career in the immediate future.
Absolutely. And if you got a chance to watch him play towards the end, like I said, and again, it's funny because he wasn't in Edmonton long, and that's where he really sort of picked back up on my radar. I mean, I knew who he was. I knew the story in terms of the draft and how he got to there, and there was a lot of sort of attention on it at the time. But it was just all the good things I heard from Dustin Schwartz in that time he was in Edmonton, and he really believed that there was something there for him. And then when we had Sudarshan Maharaj on, Sudsy talked about going and visiting. And I can't remember if that was part of the interview or just me and Sudsy talking afterwards, but you heard Anthony talk about them having a visit, like him coming all the way out after they'd signed him in Anaheim to go meet him and get to know him. And so the importance of that, and he raved about him too and the steps he's taken. And, I mean, goalie coaches, whether they end up being the guy who you're with when you break through or not, like when they have that many good things to say about you, even especially after you move on from an organization, like you start to, there's something there, right? And then when you get a chance to talk to the goalie himself, you sort of understand why they think so highly of him. So I really enjoyed that.
I like the way he plays the position too. Little athletic, a whole bunch of foundation, but there's a little bit of being able to really adapt to the situation and use your natural abilities that the good Lord gave us.
Outside the box, right? And increasingly what we taught Robin Lehner in Vegas a couple of years ago when he told us, like, unpredictability matters more and more and more now. And so having that element in your game without being over reliant on it, increasingly important and a nice balance if you can find it.
Hutch, this has been fun. You've stuck with us, and I credit you for your patience today, as I had all kinds of technical problems. And Pops, like Woody and I drive you around the bend with our issues. And thank you again.
Never. I'm chill. I'm the chill, relaxed dad. Did you see me getting stressed today? No, I don't get stressed.
But I didn't really see you either.
Well, it's true because you couldn't get on your computer, but there's no stress here. I learned how to be relaxed in the military. Ask your brother about it. Bet you he's a relaxed guy.
Yeah, good point.
Listen, Hutch has seen, like you today, Darren, that was nothing. He's seen me melt down over technology. I think if I turn around here, there might still be remnants of a $500 set of headphones that I smashed in a fit of rage when I couldn't connect to something I was supposed to connect to. So
I can't get upset when a guy texts me and just says, anybody know how to set up a home network? I could just laugh when I get those texts.
I was completely flummoxed on that one. But thank you very much.
Thank you for hanging in there and not running away on us.
Or pulling a Woody and destroying everything in your path.
You know what else today, though? Just to leave you this. My wife has taken up hiking, and she was out for a little jaunt in the desert today. Rattlesnake, like 5 feet away. Yeah, didn't get her, but just a little. We're not in Kansas anymore. One of those moments.
Did you pull the phone out and take a picture?
I asked that. She said it was so close. I didn't even do that, and she likes the pictures. And she didn't even do that. So that's a sign. And it was rattle. I said, hey, is the rattle is what you hear on TV is the same? She goes, worse.
I bet it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I tried to pull the camera out when I was 5 feet from a grizzly cub. So a friend of mine reminded me maybe.
Are you crazy?
I wasn't thinking. I wanted a good photo. And then my buddy reminded me that Mama might be around.
I would guess that Mama is around
Probably.
somewhere. And by the time you notice, Mama's, you're not going to be able to react.
She's
to
a little
Mom being
faster
there.
than me.
Woody swims with sharks too, so
Yeah, I was just gonna say not on purpose, but I have gotten into those spots a
Yeah,
few
he
times.
sends us the photos, and they're actually sea turtles.
That's why I'm really appreciative of this episode, hanging out with the Duck in Anthony Stolarz and Cam on the gear segment from the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. And of course, you are listeners. We all love you, and you are along this ride with us in the wonderful world of goaltending. Thanks for listening to In Goal Radio, the podcast.